spiced beef hot dish with bacon jalapeno cornbread. To get started, I'm crisping up some bacon because I'm gonna use the bacon fat to brown my beef. And I'm doing this all in a brazier that's gonna get stuck in the oven. So this all is built in one pot. My bacon is looking really crispy. I'll transfer it to a paper towel. I'll season my beef now. I have 3 pounds of beef chuck that's been cut into cubes. Now I'm gonna brown this in batches. And that is the sizzle that I want to hear. If I add too much meat, it's gonna lower the temperature of the pan and I'm not gonna get that crust. So just be patient with this. This stew is inspired by my love of making chili and cornbread in this same pot. Okay, my meat is looking great right now. It's really beautifully browned. I'm gonna transfer this to a dish now, and then I'm gonna continue browning the rest of my meat. And at this point, it's not fully cooked, but it's gonna continue to cook once I get it in the stew, and then it'll melt right down and get so tender. My meat is finished, time for my veggies. I'll add my chopped onion, carrot, and jalapeno. And the carrot is gonna add really nice sweetness. So I'm gonna add a whole jalapeno here, and then I'll reserve the other jalapeno for my cornbread later. I'll add a pinch of salt, and then I'll stir this around and let these get soft. Okay, my veggies are glossy and soft. I've got chili powder and baharat, which is a Middle Eastern spice blend. Baharat translates to spices in Arabic, and it's heavy on the savory spices like cumin and coriander, and there's some smokiness with paprika. And then there's also this gorgeous warmth by way of nutmeg and allspice, things that I feel like are underutilized with meats. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of this, and then a teaspoon of chili powder for some heat. I'll also add 2 cloves of minced garlic, and I'll let my spices toast for a minute or 2. It is smelling so good in here already. And if you don't have baharat, you can pull a few of the spices that are in it and play with the flavors. Or you can use a different spice blend and take yourself on a different flavor journey. Garam masala would be really good with this, or you can just go straight chili powder. The world is your stew oyster. The spices smell great. I'm ready to add my tomatoes. I have a 14-ounce can of fire roasted tomatoes, just extra smokiness, and 14 ounces of beef stock. It's not actually that much liquid because this stew is gonna be really thick and hearty. And now the liquid is loosening all of those tasty bits at the bottom of the pan. So I'm gonna scrape those up and make sure they get incorporated. I'll add my beef back in. And these pieces, once this is done cooking, are gonna fall apart and be so tender. Now I'm gonna add one of my favorite parts about this stew, golden raisins. I know, this is unexpected, but golden raisins add these surprise pops of sweet glee that go with the baharat and make it sing. I'm gonna add half a cup of golden raisins, and they're gonna plump up in this liquid and get juicy and become almost like meaty candy, which is a good thing. And lastly, a couple of cans of chickpeas. And these add a creamy richness and also more protein. Nick is gonna love it. Let me stir this in. I love that this all comes together in the same pot. This is so beautiful. I also love all the colors in this and the textures. And I'll season with some more salt and pepper. And then I'm gonna simmer this for 1 to 1.5 hours and let the flavors marry and this meat get fall apart tender. I can't wait. The only thing left to do is prepare my cornbread topping. This cornbread is fluffy and moist, and it has extra richness from my bacon. I'm gonna start by combining my dry ingredients. I've got 1 cup of cornmeal, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. But baking soda has to ruin everything because I'm just gonna add half a teaspoon of baking soda. But it gets a pass because it's gonna make this cornbread extra fluffy. And I'll whisk to combine. My dry ingredients are combined. Next, I'll whisk up my wet ingredients. I've got my egg, honey, and Greek yogurt. And the yogurt is gonna add some tenderness and tanginess. I'll start by cracking in my egg. 1 tablespoon of honey will add the perfect bit of sweetness. And plain whole milk Greek yogurt. And lastly, I have a stick of butter that's melted and cooled slightly because I don't want it to cook the egg. And a whisk to combine. Looks great. I'll add this to the dry ingredients now. And my chopped jalapeno. This is gonna be really pretty and speckled in the cornbread, and it'll add that great heat. And my crispy bacon. I'll give this a rough chop and toss it right into the bowl. Oh, I should have made more so I could eat it right now. I'm getting really hungry. And I'll fold it all together, and that's it. This looks great. Now I'm gonna dollop it all over my stew. It smells heavenly. All right, I've got my scoop for the cornbread, and I'm gonna dollop my cornbread all over the top. And then bake it at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until it's golden brown. I can feel the comfort already. Oh yeah, baby. It's bubbly and that cornbread is so toasty. Before I serve it, I'll sprinkle it with some fresh parsley